Hello, welcome to In the Studio. This is episode number 50. I can't believe it's already been 50 episodes. But today we will be making techno dub chords. I haven't planned anything here at all. I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. So I have just a little backbeat here for kind of a reference point there, but obviously we'll be focusing on the chords, not the drums. So I'm just going to actually mute most of these. We just have a basic hat. Okay, so let's get right into it here. Let's design some dub techno chords from scratch. So I'm probably going to use Massive for this. I already have it pulled up. It's already in the mixer. So it's on channel 30 here. So what I want to do before I start laying down a clip is designing something here. So I'm just going to go File, New Sound, Basic Sound, Default Sound, and Massive. Turn that down because it sounds like shit right now. So I'm going to use some saw waves for this. Super basic. Doesn't need to be complicated. I'm going to turn on oscillator 2. And so we have saw and saw, both these. So I'm just going to detune these against each other. I'm going to probably pitch this one up. And pitch that one down a little bit. Okay. All right, so now let's hop on over to the filter section. I'm going to use the daft filter for this. Actually, it has a nice analog quality. A little bit of resonance. Okay, now what we need, you know what? Actually, before we go on to the filters, I don't want the sound to stop just like that. I want to increase the release a little bit on the amplitude envelope. So let's hop over here. Envelope 4 is automatically linked to the amplitude. And let's just bump up this release a little bit. That'll do for now. We can always adjust that later. Let's hop over to the first envelope and use this to control our filter. So I'm going to put this into the cutoff. Let's pull this cutoff down and use the envelope to control this. A little bit too much resonance, I think. We want this to be pretty plucky, so I'm going to pull in the attack a little bit, or all the way for right now. Let's pull down the sustain, which is level and massive here. So pull that down. Okay, I'm going to increase the attack a little bit, actually. Okay. That'll do for now. You can always adjust the that envelope later if we need to. Now what I'm also going to do is introduce a little bit of noise into this. So I'm going to go for the brown noise. Has this a nice, overall darker quality to it, darker tone. So I'm going to pull the amp all the way, and let's just dial in a color that I like. Nice. Okay, now without the noise. Yeah, This gives it a little extra body. Okay, that'll do. It's not quite what we're after yet, but we'll get there. So now I think it's time to, you know what, actually, getting ahead of myself again. I'm going to add a little bit of drive to this. So with the classic tube. So let's pull up the drive a little bit. Okay, that'll do for now. And let's go ahead and just put in a simple little chord pattern here. I'm going to loop this over 2 bars like I already have it done there, and we'll send massive into the piano roll. Okay, and let's see here. Let's go for maybe right here. So maybe to sharp. There we go. One there. We'll put one here. And maybe let's pull these velocities up. We have that one be slightly increased and have this one be a little less, but maybe we'll add a 7th onto this one. So we'll add an F. And I'm going to pull down that velocity just on that one, just on the F. Let's listen to that. All right, that'll do for now. Now, let's do some work on the actual sound on the insert in the mixer here. We got the basic kind of sound there. Okay, now we need to, I'm going to use another filter here, or we're going to use a bandpass filter. So I'm just going to grab this yellow, whatever you want to call it, frequency node here. And I'm going to left click on this and drag up, actually drag down until you get the band pass right here. And we'll just increase the bandwidth a little bit, and let's dial in a frequency. Bring that in a little bit. And essentially here I'm just increasing the main volume just to give it a little bit of a bump right here on that 1K area. Turn all the drums off for a second and just work on the sound. Okay, now what I want to do is just to give this filter a little bit of movement here so it's not so static. Let's use an LFO to just give that a little bit of a movement there. So I'm going to use the peak controller, and what we're going to do is just right click on the frequency here on our bandpass filter, and we're going to link this to the controller. To controller, And we're going to go the LFO here and hit accept. Okay, so now let's just dial in this here. I don't want a lot of movement with this. I just kind of want it to just go sway kind of back and forth around that, you know, having this peak be around that 1K mark, just to give it that little extra sense of movement and motion. And I'm definitely not going to time sync this. It's going to be all kind of free flowing. Let's give it a little volume. Slow that way down. That's fine for now. Okay, let's give this a little bit of delay. And I'm just going to use all FL Studio native plugins for this, other than Massive, of course. But I mean, you could do this super easy with Groove Machine or SAR. I don't actually own a lot of the image line VSTs, so I don't know. But nonetheless, I'm going to use all FL Studio effects for this. So let's go ahead and add a little reverb. I'm just going to go for Fruity Reverb 2, and I'm going to pull this out pretty wide. I'm going to make it a nice big space. I'm going to do a low cut around 300 hertz or so, and I'm going to do a high cut as well. So I'm going to cut it everything above about 1.5K. And I'm going to give this a little pre-delay, maybe 2 milliseconds, just a little bit of a time gap before the reverb actually kicks in. And I'm going to go into Massive, actually. Okay. Let's adjust this a little bit. Bring this bass down a little bit. Okay. Got a reverb going. Maybe a little bit much for right now. So adjust the decay time. Let's check it with the drums. Okay, let's add a little bit of delay now. All important delay is a must for dub chords. So I'm going to use the Fruity Delay 3. Oops, I don't know what the fuck I just did there, but I'm not happy about it. Let's delete that. Okay, Fruity Delay 3. Let's dial in some cool delay here. So I'm going to take it off tempo sync here, and we're just going to, I'm going to probably pull this back to at least 50%, and let's dial in some delay. go for that. Let's go with that for now. Okay, so let's keep it in stereo mode. I'm going to turn the offset over a little bit to the left to widen this delay signal out a little bit. So let's just pull this over to the left or the right, doesn't really matter. There you go. Okay, now let's work on the feedback of the delay signal. I'm going to keep it on low pass. We want this to be kind of a nice, a darker, just a darker tone, and this is kind of something that's kind of evolving over time. So I'm going to pull back the cutoff a little bit to maybe about 1K or so, actually. I'm going to give it a little resonance. And Fruity Delay 3, you can really come up with some cool effects using the feedback and resonance on this. So I mean, this could be something that you could automate throughout the track. Okay, now let's give this a little bit of movement here with the modulation parameters here. So I'm going to turn this rate down to have it be pretty slow, maybe around 0.3 hertz or so, and I'm going to modulate the cutoff filter here a little bit. So it's essentially doing the same thing that we did with this guy here, with this bandpass, just so that cutoff's not stagnant, it's moving and kind of, doing its own thing. It's going to increase that organic fill. So we're going to pull that up a little bit, and we're also going to do the same thing for the time, but maybe not quite as much, just so this is kind of going back and forth a little bit too. So it's never, in the same time. It's kind of, evolving and doing that chord dubby thing. Cool. Now what we can maybe do is a little bit of subtle saturation here, or distortion, or we could even do like some sort of like flanger or chorus. Let's try the chorus actually. Yeah, just gives that extra layer of kind of, interest there. I'm going to leave that off for now, but maybe something you could automate in occasionally. What you can also do is add a little subtle saturation, distortion, like I just mentioned, but I'm going to actually do that this time and use the wave shaper just to give it just a little boost. Yeah, the wave shaper is just great for adding a little extra body to sounds, so we'll leave that guy on there. And then maybe to tie all this together, we'll do a little compression. So you just use the fruity limiter here and kind of tie or glue all these things together a little bit more. So I'm going to maybe pick probably a 3-to-1 ratio for this, might work well. I'll give it a little bit of an attack, and we'll pull down the threshold and dial in the release. Yeah, and then you can, automate certain parameters like the feedback on the delay, the wet signal on the reverb, the Jesus. You can do the decay on like your VST of choice. So something like this, you can automate the decay or the actual cutoff itself. So little side chain there, but yeah, you can go crazy with automating, certain parameters to give it even more evolution throughout your track. But I find it super useful on these type of sounds, these kind of dubby chord sounds, to set up macros, so you can kind of fine tune everything you want to automate into one single knob. And for instance, the feedback level, the wet signal on the reverb, the decay time, the filter. You could, instead of automating all those individually, which is totally a valid thing to do, but you can also save a little time maybe in the arrangement process by setting up a macro, having all these parameters linked to one knob, and setting in minimum and maximum values for those parameters. And if you're wondering how to do that, I did a video not too long ago that I'll link up in the card there. If you want to go check that out, that might be useful to implement into a dub chord like this. So that's the video for today, a dub techno chord. I hope that you enjoyed it. I just kind of went for it, and this is what came out. So hopefully you learned something. Leave me a question, leave me a comment, and I'll see you really soon. But until then, let's get Debbie.